Ladies, Happy New Year! We have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Dana Hudson, and I had the opportunity to meet her during our virtual retreat that we did for the Sweetness of the Season back in December. And during that retreat, it was such an opportunity to focus on God's faithfulness in our life. And I know so many of us have loved ones. We want to share who God is with them. And it's a great opportunity to recall those moments so you can share your story with the people around you that you love. So we have another retreat coming up at the end of this month. So if you want to start your year off with how can you grow spiritually and how can you focus on sharing the goodness of God with others, you want to sign up. I'll post the link below this, but it's coming up on Saturday, January 30th. And Dana is here to share her story with us today. So I'm going to let you share. Thank you so much for being here.
Michelle, thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. My name's Dana Hudson, like Michelle said. I've been going to BCC now for, 5 or 6 years, and have done some work in the women's ministry, and I've worked with the life groups through the mix, and I just adore our church. So I just want to say that. And this retreat, before I start with my story, I have to tell you, ladies, I hit the I want to go to the retreat button before I even really knew what it was all about. I just knew that I was tired of being quarantined and I needed people and I needed to be with other women. And so I hit go without even realizing really what it was going to be. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most healing things that I have done. So I'm going to share this story with you. Because that's what Michelle asked me to do. So the name of the story is called Enough is Enough. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. After the children left, there was quiet. It was deafening. My day-to-day had gone from vibrant, organized chaos to a hum of familiar routine. I was feeling distant from everybody, but especially distant from my husband. And although we had shared 25 years of marriage and he was absolutely the love of my life and my soulmate, I felt separated from him. I felt like I was always under constant scrutiny. I felt like every conversation we were having was easily turned into a debate, and I generally left our conversations feeling defeated. I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel understood or valued, and most days I was discouraged and frustrated by the lack of meaningful conversation, and this made me sad. My relationship with Jesus is a close one. I talk to him every day. Some days are filled with more words than others, and I tried to be content with the truth that he is more than enough, and my earthly relationship was what it was. But God had more for me. My life verse is found in 29 of Jeremiah, where God promises that he has a plan and a purpose for my life, and it's to prosper and not to harm me, to give me a hope and a future. And it was in this silence that God set out to guide me into this truth. I believe the Lord speaks to each of us as individuals just as uniquely and intimately as I speak to my children. In my case, he spoke in the mundane activity of monthly trips to the hair salon. I'm a monogamous hair salon client. Over the course of my lifetime, I've only had 3. The first saw me through my 20s. The second shared the joys of motherhood and early childhood parenting. And the third, a woman 2 decades my junior, listened intently to the wisdom of an older woman as I launched my encore career as an entrepreneur. Like many women, I'm prone to develop deep friendships with those I trust with my tresses. So I have to admit there was a mourning of the loss of a confidant with each changing of the chair. Why am I telling you this? Well, you see, God, in his infinite wisdom, had divinely orchestrated my stylistic sojourn. My second stylist, Susie, whom would share the ups and downs of marriage and parenting right along with me for 15 years, was leaving the area. It seemed her own personal ups and downs were leading her back to her hometown. I was sad to say goodbye to my friend, and it took a while to find another salon. Through random, not really, consequences and circumstances, I found one closer to my home and benefited from the talent of a delightful young woman who would become my confidant for the next 10 years. Sarah would see me through the launching of my children and my professional pivot into small business ownership. During the last year of our time together, Sarah began to experience health issues that seemed benign, however, ended up being cancer. She would have to give up the career she adored, and I would grieve the loss of not just another stylist, but a vibrant young woman. And once again, after 10 years, I was in search of. It was during this time and God's divine providence that I received a letter from Susie. She was announcing her return to the area with a desire to reconnect with old clients should they be in need. I made an appointment. Our conversation was easy, familiar, and soon we were sharing present challenges just like old times. She mentioned that a Christian counselor had been very beneficial to her and her daughters and gave me her number. I contacted her with the idea of connecting her with my daughter. However, at the end of the conversation, I was the one with the appointment. In 57 years, I had never considered counseling, but in just 3 short sessions, I experienced a breakthrough and God shone his light of truth on the ugly grip shame had had on my life. Shame was on me like a cloak, and the lies it perpetuated were numerous. Not smart enough, not thin enough, not pretty enough, never enough. The counselor taught me to recognize this internal dialogue for the attack that it was and to pause. She counseled me not to react in the emotion, but to respond in God's truth. For example, I'd hear my husband question, how was I doing something, as you're not doing it right? And I'd react to that shame trigger from the emotion of not smart enough, which would result in a defensive and combative posture. On the other hand, if I needed to reschedule an appointment or to say no to someone with whom I was not as close, or the deep seated shame triggered the emotion of insecurity and resulted in me fawning all over myself in apologies for the inconvenience. I was reacting to my life from the emotion of my 11-year-old self, allowing my shame to override what God really sees in me. Today, I'm learning to respond from a place of truth that my sins are forgiven, I'm washed as white as snow in the blood of Jesus, and not to allow the darkness of the lies to keep me trapped. I'm learning not to hear my husband's comments with the ears of insecurity, but to pause, remind myself that the truth is that I am more than enough because I'm the daughter of a king who loves me unconditionally. In doing so, Satan is losing his grip on my emotions. I'm sorry, you guys. And I am more able, yeah, losing grip, and here's the emotion. And isn't that funny? And I'm more able to connect and communicate with my husband as a peer, a helpmate, and a wife rather than an emotionally scarred 11-year-old girl. What Satan meant for evil, God has worked out for my good because I love him and I've been called for a purpose. And that is my story. Thank you for listening.
Dana, I love that you are here to share that with us, because it is so powerful. I feel like so many of us have these stories and we're still holding on to stuff. And God wants us to run the race. He has come to break every chain, right? To just set us free. And I feel like when another sister shares her story with you, a lot of times we get to have coffee together, but we don't sometimes get into our stories. And they are so powerful. And it just points us back to God and shows us what he can do with our brokenness. And I love that you were here to share that with us today.
Michelle, thank you for giving me the space to do it. And I just want to let the ladies know, like none of that was in my brain before the retreat. Like that was just all the Lord just working on me during that retreat. So that retreat was, I have you to thank for that, Michelle. None of this would have come out if I hadn't pushed yes.
That was all God. I think he's working on us. He's just, he's giving us that I want you to freely live. Yeah. And so that's such a gift. Thank you for sharing that with us. And ladies, if you're afraid that I will ask you to share your testimony if you do the retreat, I promise I might ask you, but no, I know there were several women who don't want to share their story, but they said that they found such healing by being on that retreat and actually processing all the emotions and what God has done. And it brings our focus from the circumstance back onto God. And so, yeah, that's wonderful. Do you have anything else you want to share with the ladies while you're here? Every time I'm with you, I feel like I gain such great wisdom from you. So
please, no, just that I am so grateful that we have such a cloud of witnesses around us at BCC, that there are so many women that are just so willing to be vulnerable and willing to be real and willing to let God just do his surgical work on your heart. It's not always pleasant, but there's so much fruit at the end. So I would just encourage, if anybody's even remotely thinking about doing this, to do it. And it wasn't hard, and you don't have to be a writer, and you don't because God just does it. He just does it. So yeah. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, there was a day where we would put images and we would scrapbook. And so that was very cool too, to just have those visuals to go with the story.
Yeah. And Michelle, can I mention that Bonnie and I did it together?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
So, because I'm such an extrovert, and the thought of like just zooming on the retreat. So Bonnie Schmidt, some of y'all might know Bonnie Schmidt. She and I are neighbors, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, you want to retreat together? And we'll stay 6 feet apart." And we did, and we had so much fun. So I would even say, get a girlfriend or two and do it in a little group, and that worked out fine. It was totally doable. It was great.
Yeah, and even I was thinking, like, do I want to do that long of a day on Zoom? And to me, it felt like it flew by. Like the retreat was over before I even knew it. So I don't know if it felt that way for you too.
That totally did. Totally did. So thank you, Michelle.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, I hope that we will see you at the retreat at the end of this month. And thank you so much, Dana, for being with us today.
Sure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.